Welcome to Pop-O-Holics, the show about hot takes hotter than hot taste pancakes. The show all about pop culture news, and Knives Out ripoffs. Anyway, we'll get to that. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm joined, as always, by my two best friends.
Chris Conkling.
And Brian Dupree. You are coming out swinging tonight.
It's a hot take.
That's a harsh burn.
I was even prepping because I was like, man, I'm being a little saucy because I'm not getting any sleep because I have a real small baby child that wakes me up all the time. And I was like, man, I was editing all our shows. Man, I'm getting real salty. And I was like, I'm gonna not be super salty on the pod. I gotta be more positive. And then that's the first thing out of my mouth. I'm a broken man. Anyway, this is Pop-O-Holics. What do we talk about? Well, this is the weekly upload, which is when we bring you every Monday for our listeners, and Sunday you get a sneak peek over on the YouTube. Exclusive. We bring you the latest news in pop culture, what's coming out in streaming, in theaters, and we talk about what we've been consuming and do some community feedback. It is July, boys, which means that we are starting a whole new month. That is on our main episodes on Wednesday. And last month we did all Jurassic June. I'm all Jurassic out, right?
Me too. I need a break.
No more. I legit almost bought Jurassic World Evolution, which is like Roller Coaster Tycoon, but with dinosaurs.
Yeah, it's like a park builder. Yeah.
I was really close, and I was like, "What are you doing to yourself? Why are you persisting?" But it was $13 on the PlayStation Store. But I didn't do it. I resisted.
And now Jurassic June officially over. So
officially over. It is July, what I'm calling, drum roll please. Hey there, Julila. What's it like in Taika Waititi?
Oh my God.
Wow.
Hey there, Jalila.
Big
What's
setup.
it like in Taika Waititi?
Yeah, and for
We're gonna
that,
find out.
I wore a plain.
You're also wearing a plain white tee.
plain white tee.
Fantastic.
I'm committed to the
on
bit.
Hit the theme.
July is that's the show.
I'm not going to type that out in all of our tweets. That eats up way too many characters.
I'm demanding it. So our month is going to be themed all around Taika Waititi. We are covering Eagle versus Shark, and we'll obviously be covering his latest film, this little small indie, almost as small as Eagle versus Shark, a little bit bigger budget, Thor: Love and Thunder, and a couple other films that we'll let you know as we go along. So we're excited for that main episode, but let's waste no more time. Let's start the way that we always do, the reason we came here today, and that's for Brian to deliver us that wackiest of news.
Start on wacky, start on wacky. Start on wacky, start on wacky. Welcome back, everyone. So, as Christian, honestly, a little bit rudely alluded to, there's a new trailer starring Saoirse Ronan and Sam Rockwell out called "See How They Run." These two characters are playing a seasoned inspector, and Ronan is playing a rookie constable who are trying to solve a mystery. It's set in 1950s London West End, investigating the seedy underbelly of England's glamorous artists and turning over a litany of brash creative suspects. We also have supporting cast David Oyelowo, Adrian Brody, and Ruth Wilson, as well as many others. All-star cast here. Ronan seems to be playing kind of a obviously very new to the job, but in a very almost slapsticky bad cop sort of way that seems to be a lot of fun. Everyone looks like they could be in top form here. Yes, this movie feels like in the vein of something like Knives Out, but murder mysteries have been made since nearly the beginning of movies. They're tropey for a reason. So I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt with this cast. And we have director Tom George, who directed 19 episodes of the British sitcom This Country.
That's
which
not a
I
real
haven't
name,
seen.
Brian. That's two first names.
Tom or George is definitely directing this thing. And,
Now, or George, that's a last name.
That's a last name.
Tom or George. But I thought this trailer looked quirky and fun. Definitely something that I feel like I'm going to be checking out. It has a release date of September 30th of this year. Christian, I'm going to start with you. You clearly, it's at the forefront of your mind. What do you think of this trailer?
No, I thought the trailer was really funny. Okay, I think the movie was probably greenlit the moment Knives Out was a smash hit. And they're like, oh, that one script we had going around. Let's call up all the famous people. This seems really fun. Saoirse Ronan. Saoirse Ronan. Sorry for mispronouncing your name, Saoirse. Is playing like Mr. Magoo levels of silly. As Sam Rockwell is clearly playing the somewhat straight man in role.
Right.
And y'all know, as much as I can never remember his damn name, I love me some Sam Rockwell. He's one of my favorite. He's been in so many movies that I love. Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. And the one with Nicolas Cage, Matchstick Men, among Iron Man 2. That's also a classic, great Marvel film. Moon, he's amazing in Moon. He's been in so much crap, and he's amazing in all of it. Bit character, lead role. So with the supporting cast, whatever Saoirse Ronan's doing, just falling down constantly. I'm for it. I love Sam Rockwell, and I love women falling down.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
It checks all the boxes.
I meant women being funny, because they are very funny, and it's funny to see them fall down. Anyway, Chris.
Brian and I, a couple months back, reviewed The After Party. We reviewed Death on the Nile. The three of us loved Knives Out the year it came out. I think Hollywood's kind of in this murder mystery resurgence over the last couple years. So it makes perfect sense to me why a film like this was greenlit. And I don't disagree with you. It definitely feels a lot like Knives Out because it's not straight Agatha Christie. It's murder mystery with like a comedic bend, you know? But just to echo what both of you already said, this trailer looks really funny. I too am a fan of Sam Rockwell. He has fantastic comedic chops, but I think getting to see him play the straight man to Saoirse Ronan's comedic character is going to be a lot of fun. I like that it's a period piece set in the 50s. It just looks to be like an entertaining flick.
Yeah, so that's See How They Run. That'll be out September 30th, and the first trailer just came out this week.
We'll see how it does.
Yes, thank you. All right. We are back in reboot territory. It was announced a little while back that Donald Glover and Maya Erskine were going to be playing Mr. and Mrs. Smith in the reboot of that movie. We now have Michaela Cole from I May Destroy You coming to the cast, John Turturro, who they list here as being in Severance. Obviously, Barton Fink, The Big Lebowski, has done a bunch of memorable roles.
Known for Severance, the most recent thing that he's done.
But what's funny is because they have Paul Dano here as well, who they credit with the Batman.
Right.
It's like, okay, both in the Batman, they didn't want to go Batman.
He's had various roles, supporting roles, Jesus roles.
Honestly, could not make it through that movie. But for another time, maybe. So yeah, this is a remake by Prime Video of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the 2005 Doug Liman directed movie that starred Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Donald Glover is co-creator and executive producer on this, and Francesca Sloan is co-creator, executive producer, and showrunner. Obviously, they've got a great cast here. I actually have never seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but I have a few friends who actually are pretty big fans of this movie. I missed it when it came out, but have either of you seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
I saw it in theaters when it came out.
Okay. Do you think it's something that could work rebooted?
My initial reaction when seeing this headline, and I think this is actually the second time that we've talked about this particular reboot here on the show, but my initial reaction was why? Because one viewing of Mr. and Mrs. Smith for me was enough. Is it a good choice for a series adaptation? Sure, I can see how you could, elongate that premise to make like a 10-episode streaming series. But what really catches my attention is the creative team behind this project. Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, fine and dandy. It's great. But who they've cast as Mr. and Mrs. Smith in this particular series piques my interest way more than the original actors chosen for the film. So I'm actually a little more intrigued than I was initially, just looking at the headline. Christian, what about you?
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Smith is a lot of fun. I think it's underrated. I think it's a fun action, like romantic comedy, adventure. So it's got a lot going on for it. I remember I've seen it, I think maybe twice, a long time ago, but I remember it being breezy, and they're basically like a fighting couple who's fighting and also fighting. So it works.
Yeah,
on
the premise
levels.
of the movie is they're both of undercover spies who get hired to assassinate each other, but they're also married. I think that's the conceit, the general conceit of the movie.
Yeah, Donald Glover is a co-creator, co-producer, and starring in the show. So that's all I need to hear.
We're gonna watch it. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely,
hands down. No, everything he's been touched turns to gold. Atlanta's one of the best. I finished season 3 of Atlanta, and it's one of my favorite shows, pretty much of all time. It's like top 5.
I need to finish it
top
still.
10 for sure.
Wow,
it had a strong start though for me.
It's so good, and the ending episode of season 3 of Atlanta is very weird. It's a very strange way to end that whole series. They go full like Get Out in a very interesting way. It
was renewed for a 4th season, wasn't it? The 4th season is supposed to be its final season, I believe.
I'm not sure. I remember them talking about their final season.
Right.
I didn't know it was season 3 or season 4. Yeah, it definitely doesn't end it like narratively,
like definitively.
It just ends in a real weird place for lots of reasons that I won't get into. But definitely watch that show. It's real good.
Yeah. So that is the Mr. and Mrs. Smith Prime Video series reboot that is happening. Moving on. Barbara Broccoli has spoken out while her and her brother were getting BFI fellowships, the British Film Institute. She said, at this point, for the new Bond, nobody's in the running. We're working out where to go with him. We're talking that through. There isn't a script, and we can't come up with one until we decide how we're going to approach the next film, because really, it's a reinvention of Bond. We're reinventing who he is, and that takes time. I'd say that filming is at least 2 years away. So we have Barbara Broccoli. We knew to some degree that this was definitely Daniel Craig's last Bond movie, and that they were going to have to reboot, at least in some sense.
In the way you do with the Bond character,
Exactly. When one person retires from the role. So a reinvention, though, sounds like maybe a heavier pivot than usual. I'm not sure if they're obviously Daniel Craig's character was that as well. So clearly they've done this element. I'm not sure what she's implying or where they're trying to go, but definitely interested to see who starts getting talked about with casting. For years and years in the back few movies of Craig's run, there were people tossed around who, like Idris Elba, I know for a long time was tossed around, probably aged out of the role at this point to be starting as a new Bond, unless they went for a really different route, But I wanted to ask you guys who you could see potentially playing a new Bond, and maybe what you're looking for.
We had a whole month dedicated to Daniel Craig's James Bond movies. At the very beginning of that month, we gave the disclaimer that we here at Pop-O-Holics understand that Bond himself as a character is inherently problematic based on just who he is. And while Barbara Broccoli is, I think, very attached to like who Bond is at his core, I think it's important that they do kind of explore this reinvention, because Bond, now that Daniel Craig is finished, I think he as a character no longer works in our modern times. So to ensure that James Bond movies are still successful, kind of reflecting on what Bond is and what he represents, and how you can kind of maintain classic elements, but also make him fit within our day and age, is something that they definitely need to do. In terms of who I think could potentially play a new James Bond, Brian, you already mentioned Idris Elba. I thought he would have been a great James Bond. Whether or not he's aged out or not, like you said, it depends on what they're looking to do with that script.
That wasn't one of my choices. That was just one that everyone
that you just threw out
at some
there.
point. Yeah.
I think Henry Cavill would be a really cool James Bond. We've had him as Superman. He is a British man. Like, he's younger. I think he in terms of age, is right there in the window where James Bond could be.
He's got Sherlock Holmes already. He's just knocking out the iconic British roles.
Yeah.
Yep. We've seen him in A Man from U.N.C.L.E. Like, he's played spies before. So I think he'd be really fun, James Bond.
That's a really vanilla choice. I think it's perfect, but I think you were like, we need to reinvent James Bond to do it. A tall, handsome British guy.
Look, that's what James Bond is. That, you know, if you want to maintain what he is.
Yeah, but he's nice to women.
I did all
some of the problematic
British
elements.
I did all British actors as well.
Henry Cavill might be a good choice. I think Michael Fassbender might be really cool.
Ooh, yeah.
James Bond, he is a little on the older side now, a little older than Henry Cavill.
I like it though.
Yeah, more like Michael
great.
Slowbender lately. You know what I mean?
But Christian, who do you think?
Wild, crazy stuff.
Who do you think would make a great new James Bond?
Johnny Carson, I think. No. I'd shaken, not stirred. God, I always have to do some stupid impression. What's wrong with me, guys? No. Number one, I still think he could do it. John Boyega would be one of my number one picks.
He would be cool.
Okay.
I think
He'd be a good Bond.
Personal choice, but I think he's a little too old at this point. But Tom Hiddleston, I think, has proven that he can be debonair, charming, and suave. And
I think he'd have to bulk up a bit. I think Bond's a little bulkier than Bond's lean.
Depends,
Bond's lean,
yeah.
But I think Hiddleston might need to put on a little bit of muscle mass.
See, I would like to see them go in a different direction where, you know, he's more smart. He's more like the Q we see in the
Brainy
Craig,
Bond.
Yeah, Brainy Bond. Give me some of that Brainy Bond. And then I think it would be two on the nose.
He makes his own devices.
And two along with...
He's just Batman at that point.
Two along... Speaking of Batman, two along... This would be two along the Craig route, but I think a continuation of Craig would be Tom Hardy. Would probably be my next pick, because...
Interesting.
That dude's very interesting. He's kind of a brute. This would be more...
I was going to say, Tom Hardy definitely seems like more of an aggressive Bond.
Yeah, definitely an orphan.
Even more aggressive than Daniel Craig, I think.
He definitely would play the orphan up of like, I actually grew up a very rough childhood, and now I have a suit on.
From the streets.
From the streets, yes.
Bond from the streets.
Brian, what do you got? I'm very excited to know.
All right. This is not in a particular order necessarily, but Dev Patel, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Could definitely pull it off. I was a big fan of the Green Knight last year. Obviously, a very different role. Also, Daniel Kaluuya potentially. And again, I'm doing kind of the age range too. They're like early 30s, both of them.
Yeah.
I know it's probably unlikely that we're gonna have a female Bond, but Jodie Comer, I think she was really great in Free Guy. That had a decent amount of action. I'm not sure how much she was involved there. She was also in The Last Duel and is incredible in that movie. So I think she could do some really great stuff potentially. And Letitia Wright as well, if we were going female.
I think
obviously shown herself in Black Panther.
She would make an interesting Q. You know,
Okay.
but that's probably
Similar
because
to her character
Shuri,
in Black Panther. Yeah,
that's probably why I see her as such. But yeah,
I was
those
going-
are really cool choices.
You know, in this article, the Miss Broccoli herself says that him. We have to reinvent him.
Yeah.
Kind of like genders
Right.
Bond. So that's where we're probably not making that turn, even though we were kind of setting up for that in No Time to Die, which is very interesting that they're kind of zagging now out of that.
Yeah.
So if I was to pick a female, I actually was trying to look up her name, but I don't have it off the top of my head. It's the girl from that, I don't even know the movie. The movie that's like the political satire movie about people hunting each other. The girl that's in that.
The Hunt?
Yeah, in The Hunt. I gotta see who that is. But she
I can't remember her name.
is incredible in that movie. She's not British, I don't think. So that would be an attachment. But as far as like action star who's also incredibly sexy and probably looks amazing in like a woman suit or a dress, you know, whatever but they're going for with that Bond.
Okay, a woman's suit. I was like
a you know,
like a Hannibal Lecter situation.
No. And wearing the skin of her victims.
Bond is wearing a woman's suit made of woman's skin.
Very different term for Bond. You're a serial
They
killer.
said they wanted to reinvent it.
Oh man.
Let me pull. Betty Gilpin.
Okay. Okay.
Betty. God, I'm getting blind. Yeah, Gilpin. She's awesome in The Hunt. I think she proved to me. I was like, this is like such an underrated action star here. So she would have to put on that. She'd have to go to the Dick Van Dyke School of Spanking. But I think she could pull
Get a
it off.
dialect coach.
Hopefully she went and got it to him.
She's brought in. It's like we brought her in for the audition. She's like, I'm James Bond, I am.
Miss James Bond isn't Cockney.
This one of them splody pins, isn't it?
Oh, no. Amazing. All right. Well, yeah. So James Bond is getting reinvented at least 2 years before filming. So it's going to be minimum 3 years, probably 4 years before we see a new Bond. But we will keep you guys up to date with any potential casting news, and maybe if some rumors come out or we think of any other good ones, we'll let you guys know. Moving into some stuff that's coming out this week. We have this Wednesday coming to Hulu, a show called Maggie. The premise of this show: as a psychic, Maggie regularly sees the fate of her friends, parents, clients, and random strangers on the street. But when she suddenly sees a glimpse of her own future, she must start living in her own present. So this stars Rebecca Rittenhouse and was originally going to be on ABC, got moved to Hulu. I'm not sure if this is a sign of its quality necessarily. I know from the way Chris reacted to this in the chat, he probably feels that it is.
Not only was it supposed to be on ABC and moved to Hulu, but it was actually shot 20 years ago.
Not true, but it does have a sort of classic sitcom kind of sort of feel.
It has like that ABC Family sitcom vibe.
It very much does. And okay, when you put it like that, I think that's exactly what this is. A relatively cool concept. Ultimately, it looks like kind of a romantic comedy-ish sort of thing. Maybe not breaking any ground conceptually, but it'll be on Hulu this Wednesday. And I believe they're dropping the whole series at once on Hulu. Yes, so that'll be out Wednesday. That's Maggie. Moving on to AMC Plus. Coming out this Thursday, we have Moonhaven. So this stars Joe Manganiello, apologize about pronunciation, as well as Dominic Monaghan and Emma McDonald, who star as inhabitants of Moonhaven, which is a utopian colony located on the moon, which apparently is supposed to almost be a think tank slash scientific experiment to solve the Earth's problems for where the Earth is headed. These characters are living in this utopia to try and come up with solutions to save the world. And a couple of murders happen, and they start potentially realizing that there are infiltrators who, I guess they call them Earthers in the trailer, people who are just super pro-Earth and anti-moon colony. This seems, again, like a concept that maybe we haven't seen exactly done this way, but not something that is super new. But I thought this looked pretty good. And it comes from Peter Ocko, who also worked on a few other shows, Lodge 49, Black Sails, and Elementary. I heard pretty good things about Lodge 49 and Black Sails both. It's going to be a 6-episode first season. And yeah, that is going to be on AMC Plus this Thursday. That's Moonhaven. Moving on to Apple TV Plus, coming out Friday, we've got a series called Blackbird. So Blackbird, it's a true story of a convicted drug dealer, Jimmy Keene, who's offered his freedom in exchange for coaxing a confession out of suspected serial killer Larry Hall. This stars Taron Egerton, Paul Walter Hauser, Greg Kinnear, Sepideh Moafi, and Ray Liotta. Who I gotta imagine this is probably one of his last performances, Ray Liotta, who recently
That's what
passed.
I was thinking.
It's developed by Dennis Lehane, who also wrote books that were the inspirations for Mystic River, Gone Baby Gone, Shutter Island, and Live by Night. So definitely got a history with books that have been adapted. Yeah, this actually looks pretty good. I think Apple TV, as we've talked about, putting out really consistent stuff often. The trailer for this looks kind of like a little bit like Mindhunters, maybe, but with a more emotional side, kind of like a family drama bent to it as well. But based on true story, it seems like it could be pretty compelling. And obviously, seeing one of Ray Liotta's last performances, I don't think he's one of the main characters, but a supporting character might be worth it in itself. So that is Blackbird. That'll be on Apple TV Plus this Friday. All right. A movie that we've talked about a billion times at this point, and that we will be covering for Taika Waititi month next week. Thor: Love and Thunder is coming out this week, Thursday, Friday. In this, Thor embarks on a journey unlike any he's ever faced, a quest for inner peace. However, his retirement gets interrupted by Gore the God Butcher, a galactic killer who seeks the extinction of the gods. So Thor's got to get his friends together and go stop him. Classic Thor. This is the 29th MCU movie, sequel to Thor Ragnarok, which was also directed by Taika Waititi. This one is directed by him as well. He co-wrote the script with Jennifer Caton Robinson, and it stars Chris Hemsworth as Thor, as well as Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. We also have Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie, Jamie Alexander, Russell Crowe, Waititi himself, Natalie Portman, a ton of characters here. We've talked about this at length. I know we're all varying degrees of excited for this movie. The initial reactions I've heard have not been particularly glowing. I'm cautiously optimistic for this one still, but Thor: Love and Thunder, will definitely be giving our thoughts on that in the main episode next Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. Do you guys have anything to say about this?
You and I need to trade Twitter timelines at some point in time.
Oh, people are raving about it?
Because I've heard mostly good things to on the edge of mixed.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say mostly it's really, really positive. I think for those people that didn't necessarily like the tone of Ragnarok, which is just a Taika Waititi tone, I don't think they're going to like a lot of what Thor: Love and Thunder has to offer. But I've heard a lot of great things about it. But we'll see for ourselves next week.
Yeah, this is probably one of my more anticipated Marvel movies, just because of the creative talent behind it. And Thor as a character, I think, has had, in the back half of the MCU, one of the more interesting character arcs. His character has gone through the most amount of stuff. So seeing where his character goes from here is interesting. Christian Bale's a bad guy in the MCU. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
All sounds like a fun romp. I'm hoping it's weird. I'm hoping they seem like they are getting a little braver, maybe to their box office detriment. But I'm all for it. So I'm hoping it's brave, and I'm hoping they start pissing off more people. That's
Brave was a Disney Pixar movie, I think.
This is the unannounced, this unofficial sequel, Brave 2.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah. Braveheart. So moving on, that's Thor: Love and Thunder. Tune in next week for our opinions on that.
And more rapturous comedy that's provided by the Pop-O-Holics.
You know what you're getting here, folks. We've got The Sea Beast coming to Netflix this Friday. This is very much a family film, animated. When a young girl stows away on the ship of a legendary sea monster hunter, they launch an epic journey into uncharted waters and make history to boot. So this is directed by Chris Williams in his solo directorial debut, but he co-directed Bolt, Big Hero 6, and Moana. So definitely done a lot of impressive work previously, and this is him stepping out on his own. We also have Carl Urban as the lead here, as well as Zaris Angel Hader, Jared Harris, Marianne Jean-Baptiste, Dan Stevens, and Kathy Burke. And this movie looks cute. I think the animation looks good. This is a Netflix animation. It kind of reminds me of the DreamWorks side of things a little bit, but looked solid. I liked all the monster designs. It looks like there's going to be tons and tons of different types of monsters in this. And yeah, this is an easy family movie night or young kids choice for the week. That is The Sea Beast. That is on Netflix this Friday. And that is it for what's coming out this week, guys.
I thought The Sea Beast was on CBS. Thanks, Brian, for bringing us that wacky news. We're going to move right along into our next section, which is what we've been consuming with our Quick Hits. Quick Hits.
Wait a second. Chris has somehow watched all of Volume 2 in the break between segments of Stranger
I'm actually
Things.
a time traveler. I can
Absolutely
consume 4
incredible.
hours of content in about a 10-second window.
Chris, we're all time travelers. Anyway, so what Brian is alluding to is Chris now may not seem that impressive from when this debuts, but I believe Volume 2, as of the recording, Volume 2 has been live for how long? Like 2 or 3 days?
It got released at 3 a.m. Today. As of this recording, yeah.
Oh, you don't have a kid.
And it's 4 hours long.
And it is 4 hours long.
Okay.
But to be fair,
what you did to okay.
Yep, my wife and I watched it this morning. I had to write a review for Careful for Spoilers and get that out as soon as possible. So I had a lot of reason to, watch it as quickly as I could.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you had adequate time to stew over it. Being that you watched it less than 12 hours ago, have already written a review. What are your thoughts on Volume 2 of this season of Stranger Things?
I talked about Volume 1 a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to be very vague about narrative beats, considering that my wonderful co-star Brian has yet to finish episode 7. So there are some things that I just cannot say.
Seems a little backhanded, that one.
It's not backhanded. It's not back. I also want to respect those that maybe didn't have time to watch Volume 2 over the weekend. Volume 2 of Stranger Things 4, which I said is likely going to be my favorite season of Stranger Things, absolutely did not disappoint. This is peak genre storytelling. I absolutely loved it. I really can't gush enough about this season of Stranger Things. It is genuinely the best season that the Duffer Brothers have ever created. To the point where, Christian a couple of times on the show has spoken about how he gets jealous of musicians and how creative they are and the work that they do. And I was watching Stranger Things Volume 4 this morning with my wife, and I couldn't help but find myself being a little jealous and envious of the Duffer Brothers, that they were capable of creating an IP that is not adapted from anything previously and have it be this strong in terms of narrative and world building and character development. Over the course of my life, I've tried to develop a couple different young adult series, and it's just never worked out. But it really is phenomenal what they've been able to do with Stranger Things. Over the last 4 seasons, it's just grown and grown and grown and gotten better and better and better. What I love about this season in particular, and again, I have to be a little vague here, is that the stakes are more personal in terms of what our cast is battling. They have created a villain that I think, when everything is said and done and Stranger Things 5 has wrapped, could be in the same pantheon as Darth Vader and Thanos. He's one of these characters that is just well developed, and I don't know. It's so hard to pussyfoot around some of these spoilers. Needless to say, I think they've created an excellent pop culture villain, and I think this will be a villain that will be remembered for decades to come. And kudos to them for being able to do that. This season is very much like an Empire Strikes Back for our Stranger Things cast. And that's the best Star Wars movie. So I love me a storyline that is able to promote excellent character development, but also leave our heroes in a place where they didn't necessarily win, where there's still
the
room
metal
to grow.
of our characters, break them
Exactly.
down. You build them up to break them down to their near breaking point.
Exactly.
And hopefully they can persevere as the show continues. That's great. I'm so glad to hear that.
So I'm not going to say much more than that. I think it's a testament to the quality of this season that Netflix's servers crashed at 3 a.m. last night. And this doesn't happen often for Netflix.
It's because they accidentally laid off the servers when they're doing their live.
Right. It has nothing to do with Stranger Things 4.
No.
Some technical.
The CEO of Netflix was just like, you can go. And they're like, those are the servers. Stranger Things is on there. It's the only thing keeping us alive.
But highly recommend. I'm hoping that when Brian finishes the show, he'll talk about in quick hits, and we can go a little bit deeper in terms of what was excellent about the show. Brian, you've made it a little bit further into Stranger Things 4 at this point. Do you have anything else you want to add to what we've already said, or you're going to save it?
I'm excited about your opinions on it. The fact that you described it as like pure genre. I'm about half hour from the end of episode 7, so I'm just about done with volume 1 at this point. And the beginning of episode 6 ends on a real like kind of dire moment.
Yes, yeah.
And 7 kind of just turns around and goes full video game a little bit. It's very interesting what they do. We'll talk about it, but I do like where it's going. It's almost like more fantasy in an interesting way than they have in the past, than just pure horror. But yeah, I like where our characters are. I think the characters being separated, it took a little bit of adjustment, but largely has been working for me throughout the course of the season so far. And everyone's got, enough to do and motivations that are working. And yeah, definitely excited to do this. I will, at this point, I'm not sure if I'm going to watch all 4 hours by next week, but if not, the following week for sure.
I definitely won't have watched all that.
But you got some serious catching up.
Chris, kudos to you. I think you did a great job. I know sometimes we struggle with the non-spoiler thoughts. I think you summated your thoughts on the show very well, and you got me excited to like consider the
not watching it still
20 hours of Stranger Things I'd need to watch.
Leading up to volume 2 coming out, my wife had never watched Stranger Things before. We tried to watch season 1 when it first came out, but she thought it was too creepy. After finishing volume 1, I went to her and I was like, I think we should try and give this another chance. Like, there are a lot of elements of this show that I think you'll genuinely enjoy, despite all the horror elements that might be harder for some to handle, But we actually ended up watching Stranger Things all the way through to Stranger Things 4 over the last couple of weeks. And she really liked it. So I think there's a lot here, and I've said this before on the podcast, and I say it in my review for carefulforspoilers.com as well. But there's a lot that the Stranger Things series has to offer to everyone, I think. If you can stomach the imagery at times, I think you're going to find a lot to enjoy from the show itself.
Very cool.
And I hope that you do choose to, try again at some point, Christian, because I think you would like it.
Yeah, it's just, how we were able to watch like 3-4 seasons of television over the course of a week. I have a baby, so that makes that very
well. They haven't started filming Stranger Things 5 yet, so you'll probably have like 1 to 2 years.
There we go
to catch up.
Yeah, the tricky part is actually not watching stuff. I haven't been able to watch stuff as we keep reviewing stuff, and I have stuff I've been consuming. The issue is for stuff like this, Erica probably wants to watch this as well, and it's like impossible for us both to watch anything at the moment, which is very hard. We get maybe like an hour or two of like us being able to hang out and do stuff. But
understandable.
Yeah, that sounds really great. Stranger Things Volume 2. Brian, let's move on into you. You have an album of which you shared one track with me, and I'll tell you what I think of the track, but you have a more cohesive idea of this whole album. But one of your favorite artists, I know you're a big fan of Lupe Fiasco, his new album, Drill Music in Zion, which is this a Matrix? This is like a play on what happens in the Matrix. The Matrix Revolution.
I think it might go back to the book. Maybe more so, but I'm sure there's a Matrix tie as well. There's biblical.
There's a giant drill. There's a giant robot drill that goes through the walls of Zion. I get you. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. I'm sure that's part of the reference.
And that might have been a callback to older. So maybe there's other. The Matrix. The Wachowskis were referencing something.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Naming it Zion is explicitly biblical. But a lot of stuff in the Matrix. But Drill Music in Zion. As with a lot of Lupe albums, this starts with a spoken word piece by his sister Aisha Jocko, which, as usual, is enlightening and insightful and powerful, really emotionally affecting, and really sets the tone for this album. I think it's one of his tightest projects ever. It's like 40 just over 40 minutes. So front to back, really listenable. Even though there's a couple of tracks that are over, standard pop song length, like a couple of 5-6 minute tracks. As you said, Lupe is one of the reasons that I really fell in love with hip hop from a young age. I was listening to things like Disney remakes of like 80s, 90s hip hop songs. I don't know if you guys remember, we had this tape that did like remixes. Aaron Carter, very much Disney,
like Kids Bop almost.
Yeah, exactly. From a young age,
Kids
eventually
Hop.
got into Nellyville was one of my favorite albums back in the day, and the Jay-Z and Linkin Park Mash album was kind of a breaking into of hip hop for me as well. But anyway, Lupe in high school, when The Cool came out, he was kind of at the peak of his popularity. And that album, it's a concept album, of which he's done a few. And it kind of opened my eyes to the possibilities of what hip hop could be. It's spiritual, it's political, it's storytelling, obviously. And Lupe continues to show himself to be one of the best, most talented songwriters and storytellers in hip hop here. Throughout the course of this album, there's a song called Precious Things, which is basically a song from the perspective of hands in different ways. And I can't do it justice, but it's an interesting concept that is well conceived and well delivered. Kiosk, which is a song that Christian is going to be talking about, is about shops in the middle of the mall. And he uses that as a metaphor for society and the things that are sold and pushed to people and made accessible and desirable ubiquitously. We also have Miss Mural, which is, in a lot of his songs, he'll play multiple characters, or in some of his songs, he'll play multiple characters. Here he has an artist and someone who came to view their art. And it's kind of a conversation about criticism that has a very dramatic and surprising ending. And it ends with a kind of meditation on rappers dying before their time with gun violence and things. It's really great stuff. As I said, Lupe is one of the greats. You've probably heard of him. If you haven't listened to his stuff in a while, I would say this is a really good place to come back to. The production's really solid. It's short and sweet, like I said, and it's got some really impressive stuff that is always inspiring to me, and hopefully it can be to you guys as well. Lupe, he's one of the goats.
He's great.
Yeah, you sent the Kiosk song, and I haven't had a chance to check out the whole album. Actually, as far as hip hop goes, I have been really digging on. I'm gonna butcher his name, but Toby Nwigwe. He is a rapper.
This is the one you sent us the song of. You sent us one of his songs.
Yeah. A quick digression for him. He's like a strong. It's a lot of black pride, but also a lot of strong family values. Like, to give you, it's just one of his rhymes. They're like, I don't care about your hose. Where's your spouse at? And he raps with his whole family, but it's like very intense, as I describe it in my like white boy indie music scene stuff, like post-hardcore rap. Like, it is extremely aggressive, and it's got gang vocals and gang screams, but it is about like a message of positivity and sticking up for yourself, but also being like responsible. It's very strange. I don't know. Michelle Obama apparently really likes this artist, but he was like an activist, and he did a lot of like local charity work and had special youth programs and stuff, and got into like I think when the pandemic happened. I think before the pandemic happened, he started getting into it, where he would start just making like rap songs, like as a gag of like, oh, I'm just gonna do this, and he's turned into a very famous artist. But yeah, anyway, I think his latest single is Round Here, which is only like a minute and a half. It's very good. But what's interesting in comparing what I've been listening to in that space with Lupe Fiasco, with at least for this song Kiosk, it's very rare that there's an artist that can tell a story and paint a audio image of that story. And obviously you're still using a lot of musical and lyrical stuff that is such as repetition and melody and stuff that's very, very just music. But it is so hard to like, I was listening to Kiosk on a dog walk, and I like I was like having visual, like my imagination was able to take over and see what he was talking about in a way that I don't have frequently as an experience with music. Music is often vibey and it's moody and it's kind of like tapping into an emotion. And certainly that's all there in a way. But the real like, oh, I'm on the tip of the words and I immediately have to pull up the lyrics and follow this story along and get an idea for what's happening. I thought that was pretty impressive. And I've listened to some Lupe because I know you're a huge fan. But more so than any, that one track in particular, I was very, very excited about the way he was able to do that. I don't know if the whole album's much like that, but definitely something that stood out to me.
Oh, yeah, no, I think it definitely is. And the track right after that is Miss Mural, which is very much like, that sort of puts you in a setting. And yeah, it's incredible stuff. He's amazing. Yeah. I honestly need to give his last project a deep dive because I listened to it once when it came out, but haven't come back to it. And this is just, it's always a reminder that, oh yeah, it's like I've been sleeping on Lupe, even though I love him.
And it's very much, he could do the easy thing in a lot of situations. And that artist I mentioned before, I think in a lot of respects does some of what I'd call the easy thing. When it comes to writing music, I'm purely guilty of it as a songwriter. And Lupe Fiasco strikes me as an artist who deliberately could be making very different music that would be a lot more accessible, and that's just not what he's interested in, which is cool. Always where the coolest artists are at, I think. But yeah, that is Drill Music for Zion, Drill Music in Zion by Lupe Fiasco, and that's streaming now on all streaming platforms. Gentlemen, I've been going through a little bit of an addiction as I do. I go from obsession.
You got a new piece of technology, and now you're addicted to that piece of technology?
Yeah, and specifically, and I have to credit where credit's due, Jeff from Films at Home has an awesome YouTube channel you should check out if you're into physical media. He does reviews of physical media stuff, which is not good for my problem, because I kind of want to buy Live, Die, Repeat. Just got a Blu-ray UHD release tomorrow, and Edge of Tomorrow. Oof. Ugh.
I also feel bad for enabling this new addiction because I did send you a link to your favorite movie of all time in 4K,
which I did buy.
With a really spectacular case.
Oh, it's incredible. And I should bring it for the next show so I can show it on the visual feed. Yeah, I just got that in the mail. It's awesome. True Romance on 4K. I watched a little bit of it just to get an idea for the Ultra HD stuff, the HDR, which is very subtly done. It's nice. Anyway, particularly one thing I've enjoyed is buying old movies has actually been the real treat, because the amount of work that goes into these 4K remasters and 1080p for Blu-ray, 2K masters, and especially when they do the HDR stuff, is really how it just completely can modernize some films from a visual standpoint and make them stunningly beautiful. And a couple of examples are The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which doesn't support HDR, unfortunately, but still 4K upscale, and they cleaned up the color and tint and stuff from other transfers that historically has been like a movie that has looked poor on DVD ports and stuff. Fistful of Dollars, and both of which were done by, it's not Criterion, it is called Kino Lorber Studios. Goes back and does these 4K transfers, which are not cheap and are hard to do, and I really appreciate that there's a company that does it. But one of the best treats that I've had is what I'm going to be talking about, which is Some Like It Hot on 4K UHD done by, I'm going to mess it up, Kino Lorber Studios. And I've always liked Some Like It Hot. I actually had a rip of it. I don't know if it was a film class or something where I had to watch the film. And I remember even watching it, I was like, oh, this looks like rough because it's from the late 50s. And being astounded by how modern the comedy is and how funny it was and how it just had the pace of a modern movie and was so good. So I remembered that much about it. I saw they did a 4K re-release and I heard great things about it. So I picked it up, and I need to get all classic films that are available, and I need to support this medium because this is film preservation at its finest. Looking up, even having the IMDb for Some Like It Hot in front of me, it is playing like a trailer, which is just like DVD rip capture off of like the film stock. Mm-hmm. And I look at that and I'm like, oh, that's old movie. You watch this on 4K Ultra HD and it looks amazing. Incredible. And it is such a beautiful movie and so amazing that, I feel like for the first time I'm able to actually see what the director was seeing, what all the actors were seeing. And there's a couple of rough spots, but the cleanup job is so good. There's barely any film grain. Mostly everything's like super in focus. It's really crispy. And because I was watching it on my C1 OLED, the black and white is just amazing. And you get perfect contrast. I'm talking, you can see the folds in people's suits and stuff. Like, it is just another level. I've never experienced a classic movie like this before. It's been truly excellent. So Some Like It Hot, the movie itself, just to talk about that for a bit, is directed by Billy Wilder, who I have not seen Sunset Boulevard or The Apartment or other things that he's famous for, but man, this got me really excited to go back and revisit some of those classics. And it stars some of the biggest stars of the day: Marilyn Monroe, Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon. And the story essentially is these two musicians, this is during Prohibition, these two musicians kind of lose their current gig and end up getting tangled up with these mobsters and are witnesses to a murder. And to escape, they dress up as women and join a women's group that goes to Florida. A women's band that goes to Florida. And our characters fall in love with Marilyn Monroe, and shenanigans ensue with them playing women and other shenanigans that happen. And this movie is just, as I said before, the comedic timing. I mean, it is quick. It is a very quick movie. It is pretty it's pretty saucy. It's a pretty saucy movie as far as like the kind of jokes they make, but never like overly grotesque. Like it must have been like real in
on the edge of progress. Yeah.
This would have been like The Hangover or something for the time it came out, and you can feel that. But it is so funny, and it is really smart, kind of crude humor at times. That just really surprises almost at every turn. There's very little. I mean, there's some of these like, that's like just such an old-timey little gag they do, but there's so very little of it. It all feels like it could have been made today, taking place in this time period, and reflective of it, and especially with that 4K Ultra HDR. Oh my God, it looks like you shot a modern movie and put it black and white. It's so good.
That's awesome.
Marilyn Monroe is pretty beautiful, and she's just kind of really sexy. And she's not really a standout in the sense of like,
news.
You feel what's amazing about Marilyn Monroe's performance in this, and she's like kind of she's the main singer of this girl band that they join, and our character, both our characters are pretty in love with her. She's just so sensual, and there's nothing that really like she sings, and even when she sings, it's not like, oh, you're a great singer. It's like it's just the very sexy way to sing. She's not an incredibly great singer, but the way she sings is so sweet. And you're like, oh, yes, Marilyn. And she's just got, every time she's on screen, it looks like they're just have a mirror with light just bouncing off of her. And she looks incredible in this movie. And I've never seen Marilyn so good. So she's pretty great in it. She's just pure, sexy woman from the 50s, which I'm here for. I'm like, sign me up. I'm good with that. Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, oh my God, they are so funny.
So funny. In
and out of being dressed up as women. It is just so good. And again, like the kind of situations they get in, they still feel very fresh and funny, and you kind of don't know where the story's going. And I paused it to go to the bathroom, came back, I was like, there's 10 minutes left. Like, how are they going to wrap this up? And they wrap it up with one of the greatest lines, I think, in like comedy history. It's pretty iconic, and I had actually forgot what it was. And I was trying to remember it the whole time, and it even like blew away my expectations for like what I remembered it being. It is so good. It's such a good gag. So that's Some Like It Hot. Even if you can't get a hold of it, I mean, I think this physical release is amazing. So I definitely recommend if you have a 4K Blu-ray player, a PS5, especially if you have an OLED TV. Oh my God. That's going to do wonders for it. Even if you don't have that, if you can find another copy or you get Criterion Collection or something, this is a huge recommend if you want it in the best format. There's no way there's any formats that match this. I had a pretty high quality DVD rip of it, and I think I still do on my computer. I don't know where I got it from, but and it's night and day. I mean, it's a 500% improvement in image quality, and it's quite incredible. The sound is also, they have a 2.1, and I think they have a 5.1 mix. Clearly, the audio is recorded as separate mono tracks that are kind of like smashed together, but they're doing some amazing work. I think this is a previous thing they did for other releases. I don't think they had to do a lot of work with the audio, but you can get stereo if you want it, and you can get surround if you want it. And there's some stuff with the surround. Obviously, that's not the reason you're coming to it, but picture quality, the movie's just great, and it's just a great transfer. Chris, have you seen Some Like It Hot?
It's been such a long time since I've seen the movie, but this was one of my grandpa's favorite movies. You're gonna have to send me that link because I definitely want to pick this up in 4K.
Oh, you won't regret it. It's such a good time. And Erica watched most of the movie with me, and she was laughing the whole time. And yeah, it just plays.
Dude, Jack Lemmon is hilarious.
Oh my god, dude, it is so good. It reminded me. I'm like, oh, this is like one of my favorite movies. It's really great. Again, I just can't stress how timeless this movie is, and just how I would not have to stretch for most people to be like, yeah, it's old, it's a little slow, but I think you'll like it if you just give it time and like, really have some patience. No, you could pop this on in front of anybody, and 10 minutes in, they'll be sold. It's that good. It's still that consistent. So that is Some Like It Hot. Do we have a little? I know, Brian, you haven't seen Some Like It Hot, so
I know this is a big miss for me. You're selling.
You'll like it, Brian.
Though.
I really do think you'll love it.
Check it out.
next time you're in town, we'll pop it on, and then we'll watch the whole Fistful of Dollars trilogy as well. We'll catch you up.
Okay.
Let me know when you guys are doing that.
Yeah,
That sounds awesome.
We'll do. Do we have time for a little like retro talk about Boba Fett?
I think we do. Brian,
Are you okay with that?
Let's do it.
I'll be brief. We have a whole episode where you two, when I was on my leave, you had watched the whole series of Book of Boba Fett, which came out on Disney Plus. This is the another Star Wars series that focused around Boba Fett. He didn't die in the Sarlacc pit. That's the beginning of the show, and we follow him. And sorry, spoiler for the first part.
Come on.
Find a way to make him live. So I started when Kenobi was about to come out. I was like, well, I got to catch up on the Star Wars series. This, besides the animated stuff, this was the one show that I had not watched. And I got 15 minutes in, and I texted Chris, and I said, I can't do it. I don't want to watch this show. I was bored out of my mind. Bless him, the guy playing Boba Fett. I just don't think I don't think Boba Fett.
Tamora Morrison.
Yeah, he's as good as he can be in that role, but I'm just so not. The more Boba Fett talks, I'm like, Boba Fett should fly around his jetpack and shoot things. That's what he succeeds at. Anything more you try to do with his character, and you make him less cool, Darth Vader problem. So I text Chris. I said, I can't do this anymore. Like, I know you were saying something about like one of the episodes being good, and Chris, bless your heart, you said, if you just want the and this is light spoilers, if you do want to go in completely cold to Book of Boba Fett, I don't recommend it. I think you should listen to me. So we'll be lightly spoiling the show. He goes, if you just want the Mando stuff, come in at episode 4, right? It's 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen the Mando. I saw Mando season 2 when it came out.
No, it's 5, 6, 7.
5, 6, 7. It's a 7-part. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's the last 3 episodes. That's the important thing that I remember. And I just come off watching Kenobi because I like delay. I think I watched one episode, watched all of Kenobi, and then watched the next 2 episodes. And especially compared to my so-so feelings on Kenobi, watching these 3 episodes, I was perplexed and confused about the release strategy of Disney and where the fuck their heads are at. Because we basically just start Mandalorian again, and it's just a season of The Mandalorian from episode 5 on. I didn't have to know anything else about it. All 3 episodes made complete sense. There's a few characters that I was like, they didn't tell me their names. Something tells me I don't care what their names are. And from talking with Brian and Chris, sounds like that's it. And just the level of set design and production feels like 100 times better than Kenobi as well. It feels like a Star Wars movie. It is like borderline Star Wars movie quality. There's some stuff, but most of it feels very cinematic and looks great. For a continuation of the story of Mandalorian, this felt like the Mandalorian movie that came after all this. The story is very well paced. It's very methodical, but our opening scene with Mandalorian just brings me back to where that character left off in the past. There is some stuff with some, and I'm not gonna it's all over the internet right now, but it came out
It came out several months ago, so
I'm gonna spoil it. Luke's, and it's so stupid because he's so inconsequential to the show, which I think is perfect. But Luke Skywalker's in it, and he's pretty. He could be a log for all I care. It's cool. I think how they use him is cool, and I liked this much more than what was at the end of Mandalorian from just how they were trying to present that character. This felt much more like, oh, this feels like Luke Skywalker after Return of the Jedi. It made a lot more sense of the kind of things he was doing. It distracted me the most because it was the most noticeable of how they were doing tricks for the face stuff. And you're like, you're filming it this way because you don't want to show his lips move so much. And that's smart, but now I'm paying attention to that. But that's neither here nor there.
It was obvious,
despite how I feel about the show, and like you being fully aware of like all the tricks and behind the scenes magic that they're using to bring young Luke Skywalker to life, it's still impressive, that they're even attempting to do this. The courage it takes to be like, we're going to bring Mark Hamill from 40 years ago back to life. Good for them.
In a lot of ways, it's impressive. In a lot of ways, it's pointless. And I'm like,
narratively pointless, right?
Not only is it narratively pointless, I think it does serve some sort. I think it serves more of a purpose. It makes what happened at the end better. Overall, I feel better about the implementation of the character than I did at the end of Mando season 2. My thing is like, wow, you really could have just saved a lot of. You create a couple new problems, but man, you solve 100 problems by just recasting him as someone who looks like Mark Hamill, doing a slight interpretation of Mark Hamill's performance. I saw Solo, and the dude who played Solo is not the reason Solo is a bad movie. He's relative.
Despite what Kathleen Kennedy thinks.
Yeah.
That's a whole other conversation.
It's a whole other conversation. But what I'm saying is like, can you imagine how bad Solo would have been if they fucking did this shit for Harrison Ford the entire time? You know what I mean? It's like,
it would have been unwatchable.
Man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I'm like, go through all this trouble, and it's like, we've been doing this for hundreds of years. Just recast the guy, and he can actually talk with his face on screen. And we go for the first 5 minutes we see him on screen, we go, oh, he's doing a pretty good Mark Hamill, and then we fucking think he's Luke Skywalker. I swear to God, it's that easy, guys. We don't have. They've done this so many times.
No,
and
Luke Skywalker's too precious, Christian, to fucking recast.
It's so funny because I can think of every fucking time they've done this shit, and every time it's like we always talk about it. We're always like, it looked kind of weird, didn't it? And no one talks about the scene they're in. It's like it's always about the weird, uncanny valley shit that's happening. It happened with Grand Moff
Tarkin.
Grand Moff Tarkin.
Is that Peter Cushing?
Peter Cushing. We get 5 seconds of Leia as well at the end of that, and everybody was like, it looked weird for a second. They weren't like Leia. They were like,
that looked weird.
What's fucking happening to her face? So they need to stop doing this until it's good, or unless you do the Polar Express where everybody just looks like a weird CG. Like if you do that, I guess then it's at least consistent. But they got to stop throwing in these weird fucking robot graphic faces. It's very strange. But anyway. Huge digression. I thought it was harmless as far as things go. It's great to get some of our characters back. I love the one girl that's helping fix up his fighter. Sorry, I don't have any of the names in front of me.
Amy Sedaris.
Amy Sedaris is so great, and she's been great in Mando. She's a wonderful addition to the end of this. And we get a Battle of New York style Star Wars ending, like big battle throughout the city in Tatooine. Which is just fun. It's like this big cap on the adventure. I think we get a lot of really great character moments with Mando, and then we get the evolution of his relationship with Grogu, and then we get this finale. I'm sorry, it's fantastic.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How does the Cad Bane stuff play for you?
Well, I know Cad Bane is a character from supplemental like video game stuff.
He's from Clone Wars.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. I knew he was a bad bounty hunter guy. That's the extent of what I knew about. And he has pistols.
Does the dynamic and like history between the two of them play for you at all? Yeah.
Clearly, they were like I'm just gonna guess they like robbed people together, and they were like competitive bounty hunters together.
Cad Bane trained Boba Fett.
Okay. I think he said something because of like, oh, I taught you to do. Yeah.
I'm not a boy anymore. Yeah. And you're an old man.
So you grew up
with he says.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's not super deep.
No, it's not.
It's like, oh, you trained him. Oh, well, okay. And that's kind of implied. I think it works as well as it needs to. Again, something weird's going on with Cad Bane's face. I think they ADR'd everything he did, right? Yeah. So that was a little distracting, but the character overall works as a menacing foil to our heroes. I don't know. It was particularly Return of the Mandalorian, which is episode 5, is I think a perfect episode of Star Wars television.
It's
just in a show that it has nothing to do with.
It's so
funny how you. Sorry, continue.
No, please.
I was just saying the fact that you're raving about how the show looks, I feel like there's some straight up bad stuff in the front half, and it feels like all the money comes once the Mando episodes are there. Yeah. So there is good stuff. I think there's one kind of like arc in the first 4 that I actually thought worked well. There's some stuff with Tusken Raiders that I think
I sent Christian the cliff notes to try and help him get into like Boba's mindset. But after I sent the text, I was thinking to myself, like, this doesn't even fucking matter. Like,
there's some like previously on, which is hilarious because I guess maybe it'll refresh your memory. But it's so brief that it made me go, yeah, there was no reason to watch it because they're like, oh, just to get caught up. He made friends, now they're dead. It's like literally previously on, made friends, now they're
rough.
dead. I was like,
yeah,
got it, cool, I'm on board. Didn't need to see that. No, I this is the recommended viewing. I think it was very excellent. Oh, and just like all the stuff with him, like I've always loved the design of the Naboobian fighters. I know I say Naboobian.
The Naboobian.
Yeah, Naboobian from Naboo. The
N1 Naboo fighter, Christian.
Yeah, the Royal Guard fighters. I've always thought they were super slick and super awesome, and to see it like rebuilt and actually physical and not CG like it was in the prequel, and like the way they did that and the whole scene with him flying around, and then we get kind of a payoff from
the little Grogu car seat dome that they put in the back of it. Adorable.
It's so awesome. I was like, he can't really stretch his legs in there. It's gonna be hard to like capture a bounty. But I
was gonna say, yeah. How is he? I guess he's not gonna be a bounty hunter anymore because he can't fit any bodies in there. So.
Yeah, but he can do some like fighter pilot shit, and you guys know how I feel about fighter pilots. So all that stuff's really good. Sound design's really awesome. I don't know. These 3 episodes are better than Kenobi by a country mile, and I had such a good time with it.
Wow. Christian, I am both happy and envious of your viewing experience of the Book of Boba Fett. I know you kind of skimmed over our audio when you were editing it because you hadn't seen the series yet. But it's really just like an hour and a half of me ranting about how horrible that show is.
Oh man, yeah. In the context of watching 3, I can't imagine watching 4 bad episodes. It would sour you so much. Where
I do agree with Brian though that like it's so and what you were saying at the beginning, the marketing for this show is so fucking weird because I genuinely think the first 4 episodes make a really interesting Boba Fett story. All the flashbacks, him spending time with the Tusken Raiders, not necessarily the things that are happening in the present on Mos Espa, but the stuff with the Tusken Raiders really does work when you watch it all together. And then like your viewing experience, everything that should be like Mando season 2.5 works together because they are now shifting gears and refocusing onto a character that is not the main character of the show. So I think it. Anyway, go listen to our episode. You can hear me rant about it much longer. But I really think it is like 2 separate things that they could have divided. And by doing so, both would have been stronger for it. But glad you liked it. Excited you finally watched it. You got to watch Boba Fett ride a Rancor. Fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was super cool. And I was only like 2 hours into the content by the time I got to it. So it was paced very well.
Remember how like when we talked about Mando season 2, particularly Robert Rodriguez's episode, we were like, it feels like he's playing with action figures, right? Like Star Wars action figures. Turns out that's actually how he does previs for a lot of his Star Wars content. He'll pull out Star Wars action figures.
Action figures.
Putting Boba Fett on top of a Rancor is something I would have done when I was like 10 years old.
Not to be understated too, just as another compliment.
But it's cool.
The ending action sequence with both Boba and Mando is
cool.
Insanely badass. It's so good.
It's awesome.
And it has that cool setup with the guy from the city planet. The planet that's all city. It's the God, I always forget what they're
Twi'lek or
Twi'lek.
The Twi'leks.
Yeah, I think that Twi'lek counselor guy. And he's like,
The one that works for the mayor of Mos Espa?
Yeah. He have to give a message and stuff. Yeah, he's funny.
What does he say? Apologies or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't even know if you saw that.
Probably not. No,
but
it's really
anyway,
for his
good
character.
for you.
His character.
Excited that you liked it.
His character made complete sense. Oh, this guy's a weasel. This is great.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's
immediately
an interesting character.
Yeah. So that's Book of Boba Fett. I'm recommending you watch episodes 5, 6, and 7. If you were intimidated and heard the bad things about the show, I'd say start there. If you finish Mando season 2, I think you're
going to need to watch those episodes before Mando season 3 comes out, because I think a lot of people are going to be confused.
Something happens. Yeah, that's confusing.
Why is Grogu back?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Where'd he get that little piece of chainmail? The moment when he goes like, "You have the shirt," dude, I almost cried. I was like, because he's like hugging Grogu. I was like, dude. I told Erica saw the last scene
Mando
with the shirt thing, and because she just, as soon as Baby Yoda's on, she just turns around. Grogu, sorry, but we call him Baby Yoda still. She looks at him. She wants everything to do with him. As soon as he leaves, she goes away. As soon as he's off screen.
My wife she refuses to watch Mandalorian, but every week an episode would come out. I would be like, here's all the Grogu stuff. And we would like, what is it? Speed up through the episode just so she can see everything that Baby Yoda's doing. And then that would be it. So Mickey's the exact same way.
I literally yelled at her. I'm like,
fast forward is the word I was looking for.
He chose the shirt. She's like, he did? We high fived. It was good. All right. I put a huge spoiler bumper, like full spoiler bumper. But after the spoiler bumper, right, meow, go watch 5, 6, and 7. Christian had as someone who's not loved a lot of Star Wars stuff, I thought this was just an excellent, fun return to The Mandalorian. Very cool. Let's wrap things up. We're running a bit long because I went on a tangent, as per usual, with community feedback.
Welcome back to the community feedback section, loyal viewers and listeners. In this section, we take care of some Pop-O-Holics housekeeping. Typically in this section, we'll talk about our upcoming Throwback Thursday episode. We'll go over any 5-star written reviews that you've left us on either Spotify or the Apple Podcast app. And then, of course, we'll go over any poll results for polls that we've released on our Twitter at Pop-O-Holics. This week, we do not have a poll live. So we're just going to talk about our Throwback Thursday episode.
We do not have a poll. We do not have any 5-star reviews. We have no fucking emails. Anyway.
Anywho, we're still going to talk about the Throwback Thursday episode.
We did, Chris, you didn't want to read the one listener email saying that our Norton security and privacy...
that we owe them like $300?
Yeah, I paid. Don't worry.
A few times.
Oh man, have you been paying out every single one of those emails that we've gotten?
Yeah, it's really strange.
We must have paid them like over $3,000 already.
Yeah, I mean, they just wanted gift cards to the Google Play Store, which I found weird, especially...
It's a very strange form of payment.
I was like, I don't know what kind of money laundering scam you guys are running over in Norton. What the fuck are you buying?
No, I didn't want to read those emails.
On the Google
I didn't
Play
feel
Store.
like they were relevant.
How are they buying? Candy Crush coins? Come on. Anyway.
Come on.
This week on our Throwback Thursday episode over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Pop-O-Holics, we're continuing the re-release of our Studio Ghibli month. Last week, we re-released our Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind episode, and this week we'll be re-releasing our conversation about Spirited Away. Highly recommend you go over and check out these episodes. We had a lot of fun doing them. They came at a very dark time. So it was great visiting all these Studio Ghibli films. Do you guys have anything that you want to add about our Spirited Away episode?
Oh, I feel like 10 years older since we did those episodes.
Me too.
Yeah, it's been a hard 2 years. It's been a long 2 years.
Different timeline. Spirited Away is one of my favorite movies of all time. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's timeless classic, and definitely go check out our review afterward.
Yeah.
So that's going to be our Throwback Thursday episode, Spirited Away, this Thursday. YouTube.com/Pop-O-Holics is where you can find it. When you go to our site, make sure you like the video and subscribe so you don't miss any of our future content. Christian, where else can our loyal listeners and viewers find us online?
They can find us. We have a link tree in the show notes. It says follow us around the web down, below hither. And it'll take you to all our social medias, Twitter, where you can get those polls. Subscribe on your favorite podcast player. Subscribe on YouTube. Really appreciate it. Leave a comment. do it up. We'd love to hear from our listeners. We'd love to read just, any email that you want to send us. What do you think about G.I. Joe Retaliation? I don't know. I want to know, though. What did you think about it? I haven't seen it, I don't think. I can't remember.
Should he watch it?
Should I watch it?
These are questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, if we just get one, I will shout out this listener, and I will make him the Pop-O-Holics listener of the month if I just get an email that says yes.
Christian is trying to add a section to our show that's Christian's TikTok of the week. All you need to do, the first person that emails him either a yes or a no will determine whether this segment is added. So please email us.
Okay.
It would it'd definitely be very thematic, and I would have done the Jurassic World thing that was done by Tom Candy.
Oh, so funny.
Actually,
Very funny.
Jurassic World 6. I want to punch a raptor. So good. Made me laugh.
Run.
Run. Yeah, but we don't get that yet because we didn't vote. So you got to tell me if we should do that. If you want our show to be more like TikTok.
Maybe we'll release a Twitter poll. Who knows?
And that would have been around Jurassic June, which was last month's theme. And this month's theme, July, we are doing all Taika Waititi, as we said at the top of the show. So all that and more. We're talking Eagle vs. Shark on Wednesday's app. Subscribe to listen, to watch any way you want. Any way you want it, that's the way you need it.